expand the boundaries of contemporary dance, that we show not only the very intimate, dark moments, but also the joy in that movement and beauty and elegance as well within the contemporary dance world.
Welcome to the home of the Nashville Ballet. Today we have the pleasure to talk with Maria Konrad, who is a highly talented dancer and choreographer and is part of this wonderful project, the world premiere project by the Nashville Ballet, and that is inspired in the Dia de los Muertos. Thank you, Maria, for taking the time to speak with MCR, with Music Theater Review. And I'm really excited to learn more about your work and your experience with this production, but also your career.
I grew up in Jupiter, Florida. So I grew up in South Florida, which had a huge Hispanic community. So it's always been part of my DNA since growing up. And I went to University of the Arts in Philadelphia. And then I worked and I traveled the world as a choreographer and a teacher. And it's in my wildest dreams, I wouldn't have thought that it would take me to Jakarta or Japan or to Spain or to Italy. And the last couple of years, I've been lucky enough to be in Mexico for work on the holiday of Dia de los Muertos. Oh. And so that's kind of where the inspiration for that came. And I'm thrilled to join Nashville Ballet as the director of the second company. And when I came, Nick Mullican was like, I know that you're doing things at Lincoln Center. I know that you're doing things all over, but what would you want to create for Nashville? And that was this ballet.
Wow. Yeah, now that you're talking about that second project, can you tell us a little more about that NB2 project?
Okay, so NB2 is the official second company of Nashville Ballet. So these are dancers that are looking to take their training to the next level and train in a company atmosphere, but we still have the time and space to kind of nurture them and guide them and say, okay, this is where we need to work. This is where we need to progress. These are the things that we are doing. And it's kind of like in baseball, like AAA ball. Okay. Right? Like, so it's right before they make it to the major leagues. So we give them a space in which they continue the training, they get professional company experience, but we can help guide them. So it's a group of 24 dancers. We have 12 second company members, and then we also have 12, and then I think we have another 12 trainees. So wow. Trainees first and then second company.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's fascinating. Now, talking about the show, so you tell me that the idea came from your visit to this wonderful commemoration. But why does Nashville have the privilege of being the stage for such an event?
So I experienced this holiday, as I said, several times, but I also experienced the death of my father. And I had the very unique experience that he was very comfortable with this process, and he kind of guided his family through it with a lot of love and a lot of joy. I get a little choked up talking about it. And when I went to experience this in Mexico, they experienced death as part of life. Whereas a lot of times in American culture, it's not that. It seems very final and it's very sad and it's very dramatic. But to be in Mexico and to see on November 2nd, people sitting on people's graves, playing their favorite music and eating tacos and bands in the cemetery, it's a wildly different experience. Nick has always known, our artistic director, Nick Mullican, he's always known my connection to the Latin community. It's been a part of me, even though I'm not a Latina. Growing up in those houses in South Florida, when he was first trying to talk me into coming to Nashville, the first place he took me was Plaza Mariachi.
And,
yes. And we went to Plaza Mariachi, and I turned to him and I said, have you ever had Peruvian food? And he said, no. And I said, okay, here we go. We're going to have Peruvian food and experience that. I've been to Peru. I've been to Costa Rica. I've been to Mexico. I've been to Panama. I've been to Guatemala. I've been to Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Like the only, like I've been to a lot of these places and it's a part of me. And so when I had the idea to do this ballet, we were going to I took him to the International Festival in Mexico in, Cordoba, in Cordoba. And we met with the costume designer that I was looking at to do the show. And she met us in Mexico City. And he was a new artistic director and traveling and going. He's like, it's a lot right now, Maria. Wow. And then once we got there, within 24 hours, he turned to me and he said, we're doing this ballet. We saw the Diego Rivera painting in person, wonderful. To see A Dream of a Sunday Afternoon in Alameda Park, like to see it in person. And I had studied it for so long. And I immediately just all the artistic emotions, I just started crying. And then we got to go to Frida's Square, I can never say it right, Coyoacan, and see Frida Kahlo's house and to see all of these things. But not only that, to be in Mexico City for the holiday, it changed everything. It was like a game changer. Second night there, he turned to me over his mole and he's like, we're doing it. Like, this is it. We'll figure it out.
That's wonderful. That's a very inspiring experience. And now that you're talking about Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, how do you blend this style of this muralism and all the revolutionary like paintings that they have done? How do you integrate that into
what we're doing
yes.
here at the ballet? So the first thing that's so important to remember is that Diego is a muralist, and his whole point of being a muralist was to bring art to the people. So when I started designing this ballet, it was very important to me that the theatrical aspects not only were sourced from Mexico, right? So this is a Chiapa skirt made in Chiapa, Mexico. And if you zoom in and you can see, it's all hand woven.
Oh, yes.
So it's beyond hand woven, every piece. And it was really important to me that this ballet feel authentic for our community. So even the mask that they wear, they're made by artisans in Mexico City. The mariachis come from Mexico as well. La Bruja dress comes from Veracruz. So these things were really important to me. So as I wanted to do it, there's lots of ballets about Diego and Frida, right? But for me, I wanted a ballet that was magical enough for children, but joyful enough for adults in a sophisticated way. And so it was important for me to be colorful, but it was also important that the set pieces be able to be moved so that we could do it in a theater, or we can do it in a parking lot, or we can do it anywhere, because just like Diego's art, it had to be a ballet that wasn't for elitist. It was being able to go to the people and being able to be there. And once we got to the people, when they saw the costumes, they identified their regions of like, that's from Chiapa, that's from Veracruz, that's from Jalisco, that's from, with where we are in there. And because I am not a Latina, I have taken a lot of pride in doing my research and making sure that we are being true to the culture and respectful in that way. And it takes an organization that is not traditionally set in the Latin cultures to step over the line to say, come on in, you're welcome. Come in to our space and to do that. And that's what I really feel like this ballet is doing.
That's wonderful. I really appreciate that. And I'm really excited too to be present in this wonderful performance. What first drew you to dance? And how did your time at Dreyfus School of the Arts shape your development as an artist? I found very interesting, like the mission from that school.
From the Arts High School, yes. Yeah. I actually started dance way later than anybody does. Like I didn't seriously start training until 6th or 7th grade, which is very late. Normally real ballet training starts like at 8 years old. And I entered not through ballet, but through theater. So the theatrical part of me is very deep in my soul. And I was actually a musical theater major at Dreyfus. And Dreyfus School of the Arts is an amazing arts high school. It started at that time from 7th grade to senior year. We had an extended day from 8 to 4 p.m. And having a group of friends that wasn't normal like everybody else really, really changed the way that we thought about the world. So within my group of friends, there wasn't just theatrical artists, there were graphic designers and there were musicians and there were, all of these people. And I have to say, these people that have been my friends since 7th grade are still in my life at 43 years old. There's a group text. And in that group of friends, they're Dominican, Cuban, Guatemalan, they're from South America, and then the religions. Like I have been to every religious ceremony ever. And to have that diverse group of friends, when I came to Nashville, I was like, where is everybody? And what I've learned through this project as well, sorry, I digress, is that it wasn't until 20 years ago, I believe, that there was even a box on government forms in Tennessee to click Hispanic.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Isn't that fascinating? Yeah. And the other thing that's been fascinating, when you build ballets like this, you go off of what they call these school standards. In Florida, it was the Sunshine State standards. I think they're called pillars here. And they're extracurricular things to supplement education, right? Culturally. Here in Nashville, there's only 3 Latin.
Wow.
And one of them was the Diego Rivera painting that you see in the show of the lilies.
Wow.
So, you know what I mean? So those are the things that, to see our community come out for that and to see that connection to culture start from my childhood and hopefully through these young people that they can start connecting to that as well.
I love how you reflect all of your experience into your work in something beautiful. How do you see the contemporary dance world evolving in the coming years, and what role do you want to play in that evolution?
That is a very serious question. I think sometimes people associate contemporary dance with being very dark and like very moody and, those sorts of things. And for me, that movement vocabulary doesn't live in me in a dark or moody way. It lives in a place of joy. And I hope that we can expand the boundaries of contemporary dance, that we show not only the very intimate, dark moments, but also the joy in that movement and beauty and elegance as well within the contemporary dance world.
In the case of this project, you have like this blending with Mexican steps, Mexican folkloric style with contemporary dance.
Mm-hmm. We have a lot going on in there, right? Because we're pushing the boundaries of ballet, and then where ballet meets contemporary dance, and then how contemporary dance meets folkloric style. And the very first thing I said is, I am not a folkloric dancer. Children grow up doing folkloric dance in Mexico from the time they're babies, right? So it's literally in their DNA. It's in their souls. So the challenge for me in this project was how to preserve the style of that without pretending that we can do it the way that they can do it, right? So taking some of the steps and incorporating them in, we've had folkloric classes. And it was very important to me to look at that at the beginning. Also, I've done a lot of research online and being in Mexico, seeing it, right? But once I started choreographing in the studio, I wanted to stay in my space of how that movement and music influences me as an artist and what's going to come out of me. And then we put a little bit of it in. Show me the characters.
Un saludo muy especial para toda nuestra audiencia de Music City Review. Hoy tenemos una invitada muy especial, Nicole, que hace parte del montaje del Día de los Muertos a cargo del Ballet de Nashville. Nicole, bienvenida. Muchas gracias por tomarte el tiempo para esta entrevista. Bueno, empecemos hablando un poco del montaje. ¿Cómo resuena la celebración del Día de los Muertos contigo personalmente? ¿Y qué significa para ti ser parte de una actuación que honra esta tradición?
Me parece un gran honor poder honrar esta tradición tan especial y hermosa que es el Día de los Muertos. Me conecto personalmente con este montaje, ya que me parece que honrar a esos que han partido con felicidad y con alegría es más sano y más bonito que con tristeza.
¿Cómo ha sido trabajar con Maria Konrad en este proyecto? ¿Hay algún elemento único en su coreografía con el que te conectes?
Ha sido trabajar con María, siempre es maravilloso. Es muy cálida y muy cercana con nosotros. Siempre se asegura de que es un trabajo no solo de ella hacia nosotros, sino de nosotros hacia ella. Y es un gran equipo el que hemos formado. El baile de los alebrijes me parece que es súper emocionante, es uno de mis favoritos.
Uy, qué interesante, eso me encanta. ¿Cuál ha sido el aspecto más desafiante de prepararte para este espectáculo y cuál ha sido el más gratificante?
Ha sido bastante complejo adaptarme al estilo del movimiento, ya que entrené mayormente en clásico, Y ha sido bastante gratificante el poder lograr lo que María me pide o lo que mis directores me piden hacer con mi cuerpo.
Espectacular. ¿Podrías contarnos sobre tu trayectoria como bailarina, cómo comenzaste en la danza y qué te inspiró a perseguirla profesionalmente?
Desde que soy muy pequeña, desde que tengo 3 años, he estado bailando ballet en Venezuela. Desde el primer día estuve completamente enamorada del ballet y después de ahí me mudé a los Estados Unidos y seguí con mi carrera, ya que la pasión que me hace sentir tomar clase y estar en escena es algo que no se compara con nada.
Wow, genial. ¿En qué se diferencia actuar en un espectáculo inspirado en el Día de los Muertos de otras actuaciones en las que has participado, tanto en términos de estilo como de conexión emocional?
Ya que es un día muy importante en México, ha sido bastante interesante poder aprender más sobre su cultura y de lo que en realidad se basan.
¿Cuáles son tus metas futuras como bailarina? ¿Te ves explorando nuevos estilos o trabajos coreográficos en el futuro?
Me encantaría poder aprender más, siempre estoy lista para aprender más y más sobre cualquier tipo de danza.
Fuera de lo clásico, ¿cuál es la que más te llama la atención, más hacia la parte folclórica o tal vez contemporánea?
Me encanta la parte folclórica, me parece súper divertido y siento que logro conectarme más con mis raíces latinas en ese modo.
Y a ver, una pregunta personal, ¿bailas también música llanera?
Muy poquito cuando era pequeña, me encantaría poder hacerlo más.
Wow, es espectacular, a mí me
Sí.
encanta. ¿Cómo integras tu herencia latinoamericana en tus actuaciones y cómo ha influido en tu carrera como bailarina?
Gracias a todo lo que he tenido que vivir en el cambio de países, mudarme para acá, me parece que logro conectar con mis emociones de una manera diferente y que puedo transmitir eso en mis movimientos y en los bailes que hago.
Espectacular. Bueno, Nicole, no sé si nos quieras compartir algo más a los seguidores de Music City Review.
Claro, me encantaría que pudieran estar aquí para ver este maravilloso proyecto del Día de los Muertos. Hemos puesto muchísimo trabajo en esta producción y es muy especial lo que mis compañeros y María Konrad hemos podido hacer en este proyecto. Ha sido increíble, es muy especial.
Estupendo. Te agradezco mucho, de verdad que es muy interesante para nuestra audiencia tener la perspectiva de una persona que está actuando en un montaje tan diferente como este. Y que también va a ser la primera vez que vamos a estar cerca de una idea y de un proyecto tan novedoso. Mil gracias, Nicole.
Muchísimas gracias.
What was very important to me is to have the children of Plaza Mariachi, their school Ballet. They're performing in the performance here with the ballet, and we are incorporating them into the show. We actually have rehearsal today for the first time. So they'll be doing a traditional dance from a region in Mexico within our show at the ballet all together into the fusion.
That's wonderful. I love that. So, Día de los Muertos is both a celebration of life and remembrance of the dead. How do you work to convey these deep emotions through the project?
It was, I mean, I think that the experience of losing my father, he's never gone. You know, like 7 years ago still feels like yesterday, like when we talk about it, you know, like this. But the deep emotions that we feel don't always have to be a negative thing, right? They can be a thing of beauty, and I think and joy. And the way that I encompass the ballet is, you know, I think of it as like an above world and a below world. Like we're both partying, trying to find each other. The ballet takes place in the below world. And so I like to think as much as we feel those emotions here, they feel those emotions there. So the ballet to me is already the Katrinas and the underworld and kind of that coming alive. And I chose specifically 4 characters to take us through the regions, Frida Kahlo, of course, and Diego Rivera. But I also chose Frida's friend from boarding school, Lola Alvarez Bravo, and I chose Carlos Chavez, the famous composer that was friends with Diego. So the four of them take us through the holiday in their own way of how they experience it.
Something that I find very beautiful in all of the symbols that this celebration has are the alebrijes. and Nicole talked about that she's very excited with this part of the performance. So will you tell us more about that?
So the alebrijes are, I mean, we've all seen Coco, right? And it's such an amazing thing. But I wanted to make sure that we were celebrating the ballet beyond Coco as well, right? So there's those fabulous characters in there. But when I was in Mexico City, so there's two ways that we think that the alebrijes started, right? Some people say they started in Puebla, and some people say they started in Mexico City. Linares, the artist, is from Mexico City. And he had this wild fever dream. And when he woke up, he had these images in his head that he had to get out of a porcupine mixed with a deer and a dragon mixed with, I don't know, a cat, like back and forth. So I knew that I wanted that in the ballet. So we have a very, very funny porcupine. We have a very eccentric and like beautifully confident peacock. And then we have a dragon that flies, right? And so this has been really, really fun to watch that. And the way that we weave it into the ballet, Lola Alvarez Bravo was a photographer. So she's trying to capture photos of these crazy, zany characters within the ballet. And they come out and they interact with Frida and Diego. They're very funny. Which I think is really beautiful. And I was able to see them at the Handcrafted Museum in the Handcrafts Museum in Mexico. Our costume designer took us. Wow. And I just have photos and photos and photos of these alebrijes. And then even crazier is our properties master here, Eric. He created them himself on our 3D printer. So yes, wonderful. Yeah, he created them himself on our 3D printer here. And he kind of was like, well, we've never used it before. Let's try it. And they're incredible little alebrije statues that are going on the altar to represent the characters in the show.
That's fascinating. And about the music, is going to be all like performance or...
I wish, right? That's in the next budget to have everything live. For me, it was very important within this ballet to have a cross section of music that not only Mexican people could really relate to, but Latin people, from across everywhere. And it was also important to me for it not just to be mariachi, because I think that that's also a bit stereotypical, right? Yes. So there's huapangos, there's all different sorts of things. And I wanted it also to be generational. So we have we have a huge soundtrack. It goes everywhere from Chavela Vargas in Paloma Negra, right? To Los Lobos, wonderful, right? To, Gustavo Santaolalla, who is a composer for a lot of movies and TV shows. Yeah. That's where my alebrijes come from. To, I'm going to say it wrong, so please don't judge me, Flor de Toloche, which is a female mariachi band. Wow. Which, funny enough, I was so excited when we went to go talk to them about using two of their songs. They were playing the soccer stadium here in Nashville. And so I personally bought tickets for all of the cast to go and see them play traditional music. And then we got there and they played Nirvana at the halftime show. But it was amazing Nirvana. They did amazing covers. So we're really, really, and what's been crazy about it too is that every artist that we've reached out to, saying, we want to use your music and, all of that, doesn't matter how big of a star they are. I'm using a track from Pan's Labyrinth, the movie. He's like, this is amazing. This very famous composer, he says, this is amazing. How can I come to Nashville and see it? How can I see this ballet? Which shows us that there's a need in the community for it. And then the last thing that I was very adamant about is that we use a song from a local Mexican musician. And I contacted Rachel Rodriguez, And I said, I want you to think about it. Like, do you want to cover Pluma Negra? Do you want to cover La Llorona? Like, what do you want to cover in the show? And she chose a campfire song that her and her dad used to sing together.
Wow.
And she went in the studio to record it for us. And then she turned to me and she said, this is going on my new album. You know?
That's beautiful.
And then, so we don't have a live music element yet because it's such a diverse soundtrack that would be very hard to pull everybody together for that. But Rachel is performing a mini concert on Sunday at 2 p.m. in the show live here.
Wow.
So she's doing a 20-minute concert. And then the last musician, I know I have so much to say, to talk about. It was important to me to use the next generation as well. And so we have 2 young musicians that play Coachella, and they've provided 2 tracks as well. And they're so excited to have their music part of a Mexican celebration as well.
Well, I'm impressed with
it's all over the place, but somehow it all kind of works together.
Now you're talking about this international exchange. That leads me to the next question. After the world premiere, do you have plans to tour this production or to expand upon these cultural themes in future works?
Yes, 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 and yes, to all of it. So seeing the Latin community in Nashville come out for us shows us that there's a need to take the show elsewhere in Middle Tennessee. So we have already been on the phone talking to different venues and community colleges and state colleges about the expansion of bringing the second company and bringing Nashville Ballet to other venues and spaces. But what we're really excited about is Oklahoma City Ballet has already commissioned the work. Ooh. So this same work will be going to Oklahoma City next season. Wow, and they will be incorporating folkloric children from their community in the show. And they will be having somebody sing a song that identifies with their community in the show, so that it's not just a ballet that's set, but it's a living, breathing thing. And a lot of my colleagues from around the country is like, what's happening there? Like, what is this ballet? And it's showing us that there is not enough Hispanic work within the traditional ballet community.
That's wonderful. Wow, I'm really excited about all this project and I can't wait to see it. And so, yeah, I really appreciate you talking about this and not just talking about art and not just talking about performance, but how to integrate everything. The community, the music, the traditions, and also the emotional components of a particular region or race. So that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Before we wrapped out with this interview, would you like to share something else that we haven't touched on?
I think I would like to say that I want people to come to Nashville Ballet, not just for this ballet, but the same way that Dia de los Muertos can affect them as the entry point for them to come. I want them to see all sorts of work that we do here. I want them to experience the magic of the Nutcracker. I want them to experience the magic of Sleeping Beauty. I want them to see the new work that we're doing and how we're doing it. And so that we know that ballet is not just an elite art form, it's for all of us. And I think that that's really, really important.
Thank you, Maria. This was such a beautiful conversation with you.
Thank you.